Hanging baskets are the bane of my existence. They are beautiful. I want them in my life, but just like my husband, they irritate me. So today's video, we're going to talk about how we keep our hanging baskets fully saturated, fully watered, and luscious throughout the entire growing season. And this doesn't just apply to a big basket like this, it also applies to these smaller ones out there. So these concepts are universal. Of course, we'll get into why size may matter, all puns intended. Okay, so number one is actually your plant choices. Now, many times this will be completely jam-packed with foliage because we're trying to imitate what the greenhouses do, which we don't need to do because these guys grow incredibly fast once you have them potted up as seedlings. So all you need to do is put in the basics. And what you're looking at right now is actually how much I put into my baskets every single year. And for my 13-inch baskets, I actually even do less. I usually do one showy piece and then maybe 3 spillers. They're called spillers. So I do 1 thriller and only 3 spillers. And in some cases, I may only do spillers, and that is in particular to some of the plants that I'm showing on the screen right now. And that is because these plants get so ginormous and so beautiful before the season is even ended that you don't need any more than just a single plant. It's a great way to actually save money as well. Something else and a great hack to try out, my grandma convinced me that this is the way to go, and that is via houseplants, in particular the pothos family. So the reason for that is because these guys can dry out and stay dry for an extended period of time. They will not wilt. You won't hear from them. And that is beneficial, particularly if you're not great at watering, the pot's particularly small, it's in an incredibly hot space, or you know you're not going to be on top of things. Pothos is a great way to go. You don't have to have these rooted prior to putting them in. Just put some cuttings in, and the water in and of itself will be enough to get you through. Here I have a 20-inch pot. I got this one from Dutch Growers here in Saskatoon. I'm shocked by the price on this. This was only $28. I know, Dutch Growers and $28, those two things do not go in the same sentence, but it is. So this guy came from them. I have in the past only used 13-inch pots. I got this big boy because I want to be theatrical this year when it comes to flowers, and that's what I'm choosing to do. Some years I do it, some years I don't. This year we're going overboard. The 13-inch pots tend to dry out the quickest. You think to yourself, I can't in August be watering it twice a day because folks, 13-inch pots in sun, twice a day watering, I promise you that. So what you want to do is maybe get a larger sized pot. It can be a make it or break it, only because the water holding capacity is higher because we have more soil. So there are 2 big forms of container materials. There is obviously plastic when it comes to hanging pots, and then there is the coir. And the coir can actually be broken down into 2 forms. One is kind of that stringy coir, almost looks fluffy, if you will. And then there is almost like this matted coir. Now, the matted coir is my preference. It lasts longer and it's slightly better at holding soil and retaining moisture compared to that of which the fuzzy is. However, sometimes you're limited in what you can get because for whatever reason, stores never bring enough of the pot, these covers in. I have no idea why. So this in here is the matted version. And conveniently enough, it actually has my favorite hack already installed in the bottom, and that is the plastic. In the past, if you watch my videos, you'll know that my pots do not come custom made with this, and I do use garbage bags, but since Trudeau's gotten rid of single-use plastic, I gotta go buy those garbage bags now. I will put my garbage bag in the bottom and then I will put my soil on top. You want to try to get your garbage bag in as much of the sides, the bottoms, you name it, so it almost acts as a water holder. If you have 13-inch pots, this is a hack that I always do. Do not put any holes in the bag. Seriously. The holes in the bag will cause drainage, and that drainage will be the bane of your existence in the heat of August. The plastic, it goes in the bottom of every single one of mine. Here's one hack that you can give a shot, and that is finding a potting soil that has less perlite or smaller perlite particles. Sunshine Mix number 4, the one that I am truly obsessed with, or should probably take out a restraining order on me because I cannot shut up about it. It's been my favorite potting soil for years. That one doesn't work great in these pots. What does work great would be the ProMix BX, which is the one that I complain about profusely on Instagram because it is so dense. But the density of the potting soil would work great in a scenario like this. Now, in this container, I'm not using Sunshine Mix number 4, and I'm also not using the ProMix BX. What I am using, however, is the Sunshine Mix number 7. This has polymer or poly in it, and these are essentially little plastic jewels that retain moisture and slowly release the moisture into the system. So it increases our water holding capacity, which ultimately means our plants are better fed and watered throughout the season. Now, you don't have to get Sunshine Mix number 7 to accomplish this. That's what I use. What you can try is actually, it's called moist soil. You can get packages of it. It's yellow writing, it's a blue thing. You just mix it in with your regular potting soil, you're off to the races, and it acts the exact same. My only warning about this, however, is that you can't put vegetables or anything edible into the potting soil that has it in it. They just say that all over the packaging. So don't put, your herbs, your basils, and that sort of thing in it. Containers, I never put anything edible in it unless it's a tumbler tomato, which I do sometimes. But then again, by the time August rolls around, I judge myself because it's incredibly hard to keep alive at that point. Definitely something to consider is the soil, but Sunshine Mix number 7 is one of the easiest ones to go with. Okay, so if you know for a fact that your pots are going to dry out, you need to seriously consider skipping the granular fertilizer inside of your potting soil. The reason for this is because when fertilizer and roots dry out in the same relationship, it tends to be kind of explosive, and you will end up with fertilizer burn despite the fact that you put in the correct ratios of fertilizer. So instead, what you may want to consider is actually using a liquid fertilizer. Liquid fertilizers will ensure that there is no root burn, no plant burn, if you will, and that you are watered correctly. There are a ton of different fertilizers out there, organics, synthetics, you name it, everything else in between. Soil enhancer versions of wannabe fertilizers, I digress. Those you need to make sure that you're just following the instructions on the back of the container. My preference, however, is that if I know I classically water 4 times in a week and the weekly recommendation is, a tablespoon, I will do a 1/4 tablespoon every time I water, because your soil and the solution, that is your soil, the soil solution, is what the plants uptake. And so one big influx of water and fertilizer isn't beneficial, but a continual supply is. And I personally am a horrible human being, and I will always say synthetics when it comes to potting soil. So that's my verdict there. I don't use organics. There's a bunch of reasons why I use synthetics, and I'm proud of it. All right. Now this is the hack. This is why you have best friends. And my best friend, her name is Robin. And Robin is a miracle worker when it comes to inventions. I tell her what I think is a cool idea, and then she says, yeah, no, I know how to do that, because I personally would be missing fingers, I would be missing toes, and we'd be at square one. I'd still have nothing designed. So what Robin made for me is this. And it looks insane, and it is. But this is a way that I can water my baskets even if I go away for a weekend or a week. This is a PVC pipe, 1 inch, and it has holes all through. What? Sorry, it's 3/4 inch. This is why I have her on my team, and she's gonna be my future YouTube manager because she's smarter than me, and a lot of people are. She said it's about time. I admit that. So I also work with this woman Monday to Friday for a minimum of 8 hours a day. You should feel bad for her. It's a joy. That's good. Okay, so what we have here is various different holes. She's a lesbian too, so that joke is actually kind of funny. So all you're gonna do is actually place this in the bottom of the container. Now, an important thing to think about here is making sure that the container is not completely full. I would say there's probably like 5 inches on the bottom of this of soil. Yeah, so there's 5 inches of the Sunshine Mix number 7. And then I'm going to put this thing, this holy masterpiece. It's like Jesus, but in plastic form. Now, this is a big pot. And I'm going to put a lot of plants in said big pot. And so I'm going to use 2 of these. So we're just going to cross them over like this. And she's watching me right now. She's like, you're doing it wrong. But just dig it in. You get it. Put the soil on top. Make sure your holes are up. It's a good position to be in. This will make it easier to water. Now, you can water this daily. For being a lesbian, you're really bad at hitting the holes. Cool hack, and actually Robin and me were talking about this. If you had a threaded PVC pipe, particularly a threaded PVC pipe that matched a 2-liter pop bottle, or you can get adapters. See, this is why she's my friend and she's smarter than me. You can get adapters, folks, threaded adapters. So be crazy. Bring your favorite bottle of vodka down to your local Canadian Tire and figure out what threads fit on it. After that point, you can actually fill it for a weekend or a week if you're gone long term. Of course, that's not going to look pretty, but in the meantime, it's a big deal. To anyone who's had hanging pots, they know how big of a deal that is. If you have a cottage, you make your pots look a little bit goofy when you're not there. Your neighbors have to bear it. You don't. Now, if you're convinced you don't want to use Sunshine Mix number 7, watch my review on Pro Mix BX and you're like, that's BS. You may want to check out my video on where we reuse potting soil, because this would be a great time to reuse some potting soil. Anyways, we have various holes that are not meant for viewing. If you have, what?
I get it now.
It took you that long? Robin likes holes, and so she put a lot in here.